So let's dive into today's topic. We're going to start off by just telling you guys why EdApp is relevant for blended learning. So first and foremost, our authoring tool allows you to create bespoke content. So custom content tailored exactly to the needs of your business and custom content that can really hit the mark with your employees as well. Secondly, we have an editable content library, which is something that we launched a couple of months ago now. We have a small catalog. I believe there's about 50 courses right now. And that catalog is for you to freely access and bring that content into your account. And you can edit that and deploy that out to your teams as you wish. You can rebrand it, reshape it. So it's a great supplement to any sort of curriculum that you're building out in a bespoke fashion. Thirdly, we have some really novel features that you won't see on any other platforms, which we can talk about in a second. And then finally, why we're here today, we're working on a brand new feature to seamlessly integrate conference features like Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams within the platform to easily allow you to link out to those platforms for conferencing and really create this virtual environment that you're seeking to do. We have seen EdApp used in the context of a blended learning solution for many of our clients, including some of the largest around the globe. So we're really confident that it is a perfect solution that can deliver the type of experience that you're after. So if any of you that are listening in, if you want to hear more about what we can do and talk in a more granular fashion about some of the efforts and some of the success that we've seen, feel free to shoot us an email and we can certainly answer any questions. So those of you that maybe were on the webinar a couple of weeks ago would have seen this slide. And we were talking about in that webinar, talking about the age of COVID and how we need to change our digital tools and our tools quite generally to meet the demands of the current environment that we're in. And we spoke about the fact that yesterday we had a range of tools at our disposal, whether that would be face-to-face workshops, virtual modules, or e-learning, and today what that looks like, and specifically on EdApp. In the case of face-to-face workshops, obviously we're all crossing our fingers that we'll be back in our offices very shortly. But in the meantime, we do have some really fantastic features on EdApp in the form of discussions and assignments, and I'm going to unpack those in a second. But even when we get to the point of going back to work, we feel that these digital features are a perfect complement to what you might want to do in a face-to-face workshop. So we do see them providing ongoing value. As with virtual modules and webinar conferences, now that everyone's familiar with web conferencing, we highly doubt that their usage is going to diminish. I'm sure that everyone has seen how successful they can be and how easy they are to use. So our ability to seamlessly link to those tools from EdApp is something that's very important and a brand new feature on the platform. And then finally e-learning. So traditionally e-learning on legacy solutions has been longer format content delivered on potentially a desktop device. At EdApp, we really try to reinvent that experience, and we're all about bite-sized micro-learning, which we can show examples of. So what we have on screen here is our overview of a blended learning journey over an 8-week cycle. And again, we presented this a couple of weeks ago. But today, what we're going to do is essentially show you the translation of this map in our tool and show you how it looks and how it comes together. And the working demo that I'm going to be taking you through, although we used pre-existing courseware that was built and is available in our library right now, which took some time to create, the actual structure and layout of the learning journey that you're seeing was done in about 6 hours. So bringing in all of the courseware, assigning it to its relevant place, structuring it out, was done in less than a day. And although, obviously done by our expert team, we're really confident that our platform is quite intuitive, and you guys at home right now or in the office will be able to do this yourself. And that really speaks to the benefits of EdApp being, a platform that you can activate very, very easily. So let's talk it through. So I'll walk through the 8-week step quite quickly, and then we'll jump into the platform and see it live. And then I'll continually jump back to this map to show and point out where we are. So week 1 for us, for a journey like this, could be pre-assessment. It could be an introduction to a campaign. And for the purposes of mapping out a scenario here, let's talk about a leadership program that lasts 8 weeks. And we're talking to the potentially an exec team for a certain company. So in week 1, we're delivering some microlearning to really set up the program. We also might deliver some assessment there to understand the level of the group, so that then we can use that and translate that into the material as we go along. In week 2, we execute a video conference to kick off the program, and we complement that with microlearning, and we also deliver some peer learning as well. So using those features in the app to stimulate and encourage conversation and reflection on behalf of the learners. In weeks 3, 4, and 5, we deliver layering on of microlearning, and we also support that with some gamification features in the app to really create a learning culture among those participating and get them competing with their peers. In week 5, we introduce a further module of peer assessment, and there, again, we have demos for this, so I can show you exactly how it works. In week 6, we've got another web conference, and in our experience, a web conference at the end is great because it's a great way to close some activity for speakers to be able to talk about the learnings of weeks 1 to 5, and also pull out specific participants and talk about their particular experiences. During that conference, because mobile and EdApp is so easily accessible, again, with like week 2, support that with some micro-learning. Test the learner's knowledge as you talk them through a video conference. In week 7 and 8, there we're closing off the program. We're delivering some final modules to further embed knowledge. And then we activate our features for space repetition, which are essentially an automated function in the mobile app to create learning based upon all of the material that they've seen in the past. So we have an AI function that will essentially look at the learner's behavior and then give them material to support the things that they might need to brush up on, for example. So that's the overview there. Let's jump into the tool and have a look at how this all plays out. Okay. Okay, here we go. So for anyone that's new to our platform, what you're seeing on my screen right now, on the left-hand side is our admin panel. So this is where we create courseware. This is where we curate the learner's journey and also manage access for our teams. On the right-hand side in the browser, I've just got a little simulation of the learner experience. Obviously, I've done a little trick here with the browser in order to show the mobile experience. Our platform does work incredibly well on the desktop as well, but for purposes of this demo, we're going to show you it in the mobile interface. So you'll see on the left in the admin, we've got a list of courses, and all of these courses have come from our library. So if you wanted to, after this webinar, jump in and try and mock this up yourself, you could do that because all of the courseware is there in the library. So we've structured out a journey of over 8 weeks that contains all leadership content with respect to our imaginary use case here of training execs. And we put that together in a sequence relating to that diagram that I just showed just previously. So in week 1, we're firstly, as I said before, we're looking to do some initial knowledge transfer. And the first course that we're delivering up is one about leadership styles. And you can see that on the right-hand side here in the learner experience. So it's the very first playlist that we've wired up. So if I click on that playlist and jump into it, I can show you what the learner will see. We'll let that load just quickly. And the second part of that, that first playlist, or that first week of content, which we've put some dates on to reflect this week being the first week, we've also included a leadership survey there. And that's where obviously you guys as educators may want to take some feedback from learners in order to be able to go into week 2 in that web conference with a full understanding of your audience and their skill sets. But let's first just have a look at the a micro lesson that we've included in this week 1 course. I'll jump into this transformational leadership micro lesson. I think it's a good one. It has a few games and it represents what we can do with the platform quite well. But as you can see here under this course, we've got a few micro lessons that we would hope the learner works through during this first week of the course. Okay, we'll start that one up. And just bear with my simulation on the right-hand side here. We're obviously working in a test environment, so it's a little bit slower than what you would normally experience. So the first interaction of this micro lesson, and those of you that know the platform back to front, this is all kind of stock standard stuff, but let me work through it quickly. So we've got within a micro lesson of EdApp, the way that it comes together is a series of different templates to convey information. This first template is one where we're using blocks of imagery that are supported by text. And then when the learner engages with those blocks, it will then subsequently launch some content. If I jump into the authoring tool here, I can show you how this comes together. If I just click on edit up here, here you're looking at the authoring tool. And this is where you as an admin would go in and create the content at hand. So you can see the same experience on the left and on the right. In our authoring tool, we have a preview of the learner experience, so we can tap away and have a look. And in the center here, we have there the actual content editor where we can build out and create the experience on the left. It is a WYSIWYG style editor, which means that when you enter in text and upload imagery, you can see it right there on screen, which ultimately leads to the fact that you can create learning very quickly. So stepping through a few of the templates in this particular lesson, we can see examples of assessments. So this one here is called a strikeout, where we're selecting the text that is incorrect. We've got an example of a multiple choice that is, in this case, set against the timer. So the learner needs to select 2 options to progress. This is an example of a relationships template where we're selecting the various text on the left, or option, and its respective meaning on the right hand side. So as you can see here, lots of different ways to present information and assess the learner's knowledge. We have an example of a multiple choice question here, and instead of selecting the radio buttons, which we saw on the previous slide, we're swiping. And again, in EdApp, we really encourage our authors to keep the modules fresh and different every time, which will ultimately lead to the fact that learners will be heavily engaged in the content and make it feel like it's tailored to them. So let's have a look at our demo on the right-hand side. It looks like we've just had a bit of a freeze here in this window. So apologies about that. That's, again, it's just related to the fact that we're in a test environment, but we'll let that load up and circle back to the next module within our authoring tool. So that there is a brief look at a micro lesson on EdApp, composition of lots of interactive media, whether that be video, games, narration, imagery, text, whether we're testing knowledge, whether we're delivering a game, lots of different ways to present information. So now that I have this simulation again on the right-hand side, I'll show you what a survey experience looks like on the platform. Just let that load up. We'll have a look at it on the authoring tool side by side again. So hopefully this is all making sense in terms of what the admin function looks like versus the learner experience. If it's not making sense, feel free to hit the chat and ask our teams for assistance here. They can answer any questions on how this all comes together. So moving forward, we're still obviously in week 1 here. We're here on the left-hand side of my screen talking about the delivery of a survey. If I click into this on the learner experience, we can see it in parallel. But in this particular survey, what we've done is just include a few different examples of survey type questions that are available in the app. And to be clear, surveys that we deliver in the app, the responses are all contained within our analytics suite, which you can then go and view that data. You can export it. You can do really anything you like with that data, and even present it back to your audience in the context of the journey, for example. So let's have a look at these leadership templates on the right. So the first template example we've put in here is using a Likert scale. So this is, again, it's just the template that you would select. You would populate the text and then identify the scale. And in the scale, in this case, we've identified parameters of strongly disagree and strongly agree. If I show you that on the authoring tool, we can see it here. And the values that we populate in the center here are just shown in this center area. If we wanted to change some of these parameters, for example, we wanted to make a slight adjustment, we could do that and it would update in real time. So the learner in this case selects their response. We press OK, so we capture that. Here's another example of a survey question where we're just simply asking for a response. And again, this is on the left-hand side. We can adjust these parameters from currently yes and no. They could be anything that you wish. So for example, if we wanted to ask this question in a different way, we could say, tell us how many years of experience you have. And we could have, 0 to 2, 2 to 5, etc., etc. So we'll give that a quick response. And then the final assessment piece that we have is using a quadrant to allow the learner to do a little bit more than just swipe or tap an option. So in this question, in this particular survey question, we're asking, how important do you feel each leadership quality is for your success? So if we click here, the experience that the learner now is engaging with is one where they drag and drop their perceptions into this quadrant here. So for example, at the top, we've got, okay, I feel that these qualities are very important and I'm confident with that answer. So yeah, I think decisiveness would fit there. I think also experience, friendliness, maybe that's not applicable, but I'm not confident with that answer, so I'll just drop it in there. But knowledge is definitely something that I'm confident that's quite an important factor. So here, all of these parameters are things that you can customize. So, you know, the sky's the limit there in terms of the learner's response. So we'll go back, and now that kind of covers off week 1 within our journey. So I'll jump back into the list of courses, and we can have a look at week 2. Before I do that, just a quick glance at our journey here. In week 2, again, we're covering off the video conference, the supporting with microlearning. We're delivering some discussion as well. Okay, so let's have a look at week 2. The week 2 is obviously our second playlist in the list here. We can click on it and launch the experience. And we have here under week 2, the list of those various elements that I just described. So we've got the conference at the very start. We've got the microlearning modules. You can see here that we've locked them to simulate the fact that if we wanted to lock content that's not available this week, we can certainly do that. And then thirdly, we've got the discussion modules. So let's talk about the Zoom conference as a first step. And to do this, I'm just going to hop back into the presentation. So our Zoom conference features are just being previewed this week. The team are launching the functionality next week, but we couldn't wait to share it with you. So we decided to jump on this webinar and talk about how it's going to work. But you can expect those features to land in your accounts as of next week. So let's talk about how they work. So on screen here, you can see 3 interfaces. On the left-hand side, we've got the experience that a learner will see before the conference begins. And importantly here, the learner will see some vital information about the web conference, being the date and time. But they also have the ability to add the conference to their calendar and save a reminder for themselves to be able to access that and when it comes up and be alerted to the fact that it has commenced. In the center here, we have a simulation of what the learner will see when the event is live. So it's obviously important that once the event kicks off, the learner can quickly jump into it and get started. And to do that, we have a pop-up that will immediately show to the learner when they open the application, when the conference is live, so that they don't need to jump around through the navigation and try and find the event. They can just go straight to it. And then on the right-hand side, those of you that are familiar with the Zoom platform would know that this is the experience on mobile. So we're not recreating Zoom, we're just simply integrating with its functionality and that of other web conferencing features. So let's have a look at what that is for an admin. So if we're wiring up a conference for our teams, the way to create it within a course is just simply under the options under create a lesson. Right now you'll see options to create a discussion or an assignment, but as of next week, you'll see the ability to create a conference there as well. So really simple. And then this is the all-important screen. How do we actually fill in the specific details in order to seamlessly link to these conferencing platforms? So under the configuration, setting up the date and time is important. You can also add a description to outline what you'll be talking about to learners. And then importantly here, dropping in the conference link, which will then be kind of booted up from the learner's perspective once the conference is available. Very importantly here, once the conference has concluded, you have the ability to drop in a recording of that conference that you would take from Zoom or Teams, for example, and that will be available to learners once it's kind of switched over into that event past status. As with all of our features, you can set up access rules so that only certain user groups can see that content. and there's a few other configurations as well that you can add. Obviously, super simple way to put a conference together on the platform, and link to those very powerful platforms that deliver that experience. So we'll jump back here, we'll dive back into the demo, and so we've covered off the conference element at the top here. We've got further microlearning modules. I'll leave those there. Obviously, we just had a look at that experience in week 1. But week 2, we can flesh out, the breakout modules of week 2, we can definitely speak to a little bit more. So we've got, in this case, we've got an example where we're promoting a discussion among leaders. We're calling it the leadership throwback. And here we're using EdApp's discussion feature, and we're asking learners to put themselves in the scenario that they've just joined an organization within a very inexperienced team, and we're asking them what leadership style they would deploy. So for this particular conversation and discussion in EdApp, the call to action is for the learner to post and contribute. So you can see here a few contributions that we've added in previously. A great part of this feature is the fact that you can upload video. Sean McCord here is really liking transactional leadership in this scenario. And if we wanted to click to play,
I had a lot of fun thinking back to a difficult.
We can see his response there. We can also reply there. And as we scroll down, we have a text-based response from this user here, James Taylor. If we click on the L here and have a look at the comments, we'll be able to see the comments on behalf of other, in this case, an admin, to read over what the admin or mentor thought of James's response here. We can also watch the thread, which will give us notifications as if anyone replies to that thread. So lots of ways here to be really interactive, whether you're posting, commenting, posting a video, lots of things that you can do there, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a sample as to what we can do in terms of taking that discussion that would normally be in a face-to-face kind of breakout context and deliver that in a digital format. So the setup for those courses exists here. We've got Zoom conference, the modules for microlearning, and the breakout session as well. So moving on to week 3. So as we said at the beginning, week 3 to 5 is all about layering on knowledge, introducing features to get learners motivated and participating and conversing with their peers. So we can look at that under this weeks 3 to 5 playlist. So we've got here 3 modules. Week 3, People Enabler Part A. Week 4, People Enabler Part B and Part C. And what we wanted to do by showing a Part A to C under one specific topic was to talk about the fact that the ideal amount of microlearning that we have seen delivered is around 4 to 5 microlearning modules per week. And this particular course actually contains 12 lessons in total. So for the purposes of this workshop, we felt that maybe that was a little bit too much content to deliver in 1 week. So spacing that out over 3 weeks is a good idea. We also have in week 5, as we suggested on our map, some further reflection and assessment. So let's have a look at that. So this assessment is one where we actually ask the learner for a longer form written response. We're not just asking them to participate in a discussion, we're giving them an assignment to complete. And in this case, let's have a look at the question at hand. So the program here is called Lead the Way. And here we're asking students to tell us about a project that they saw great success as a result of leadership tactics delivered. So we can see here on screen, Sean is someone that has previously entered a response. And you can see my response here entered in. I'm just impersonating Judy right now. And with my response, I've submitted just a little bit of copy right here. Obviously, this is not that meaningful. But if I click on more, I can see some details about my response, and I can also see the mentor's feedback to me. And yesterday I dropped in this content to say, Judy, please elaborate here. So as a mentor or a coach of a program, you can be writing directly to your teams and do it in a very private way. You can see that this feedback is private. Or if you like, you could mention to Judy that to the entire audience that, you know, this is not a real answer, and we want something better. If you wanted to go about it that way, entirely up to you on how you manage it. As you can see here, there's a status on that says try again. And that simply says to me that Judy has, the mentor has told me that my response is not adequate and that I need to jump back in and go through that once more. As with discussions, if I wanted to respond to this with video, I could do that, or text. So that is the breakout module in week 5. I'm going to zip back to our presentation and just show you the map again. So we've covered off weeks 1 to 5. Now we're kind of in the end of the program. We're talking about delivering a closing video conference supported by Microlearning. So let's have a look at that in the app. Actually, I have skipped over 2 important elements here, which is our gamification and leaderboards feature. So I can show you that right now, which we would aim to kick off in week 4. So here in the menu of the app, we're on the home screen right now. In the menu, we can dive in and have a look at the leaderboard. And this leaderboard has been set up for all of the participants in this leadership program. And as you can see here, I can compete with my peers. So at the moment, I'm on the top of the leaderboard, closely followed by myself. And essentially the way that this comes together is that a learner's scores on the lesson will be summed together to create their total score. And over the course of an 8-week period, you will create this great environment where learners are continually making sure that they complete the content and get the best result in order to improve their score on the leaderboard. So where we see leaderboards deployed, we do see a lot of conversation between learners, which ultimately means that they're going to be retaining the knowledge and putting in that bit of extra effort. The second element of gamification is our prizing features. And this is something that you will not find on other platforms. It's really quite novel. And we have seen exceptional success when using this functionality. In short, the platform allows you to create digital incentives, e-gift cards, and give those to learners when they participate in the program. You can see up here in the top right, these 3 stars, and I earned these stars when I went through the module just before at the beginning in week 1. And I earned those stars for a correct answer. And as an admin, you can go in and select questions, you can weight them with stars and provide this kind of virtual currency incentive for correct answers, essentially. What we do from there is we create a game of chance or a game of skill in the platform. And in this case, we have our game, which is reveal the tile. And the goal here is to reveal all of the Amazon gift cards in order to win this Amazon gift card prize. So you can see here that I'm playing my stars in order to get that prize. The prizes that you include are entirely up to you. Our system just simply facilitates your ability to upload gift cards of any type. It could be, it could be an Amazon or it could be an eBay, anything that you choose to upload. Some of our customers even include just a reference to some time. For example, it could be take the afternoon off. Anything that you can specifically write up in an email and deliver to the learner. And the great news here is that the system will work out the probability, and when the learner actually wins, it will send them an email with the gift card code. So there's no manual management on your part, which is obviously very, very much welcomed. Jumping back into our journey, we're now looking at week 7 and 8. Let's have a look at that in the experience. So if we go back to our course list and our homepage, if we scroll down to the bottom here, we can see week 8. And here we're just proposing that we deliver some microlearning. And then after the program, we've added in an additional course just to let everyone know that microlearning, because it is something that is available to the learner at the touch of, in the palm of their hand, it's something that we recommend be delivered ongoing, not just confined to a single program. So if there's anyone on the webinar that works in an agency setting, this is obviously a fantastic opportunity for you to take your program and stretch it over a longer period than just a one-off engagement. And the benefits there obviously mean that in this case, a leadership training could be embedded over a longer period of time, which would obviously deliver greater knowledge retention. So the final element outside of microlearning for weeks 7 and 8, and we can see the microlearning here, is our Brain Boost features. And I'll talk about those in the presentation itself. Brain Boost is something that is very easy to configure in the platform. It's just a matter of selecting the relevant content that you want the Brain Boost algorithm to look at, and then enabling it for the program. So it's very easy to switch on. But the reason why I can't show you it in the demo is because in order for Brain Boost to actually be active, the app needs to have seen that the learner has completed an amount of content in order for the algorithm to compute what they need to brush up on. So the way that it's delivered to learners is that the algorithm will look at each of the lessons that they've completed, and it will look at those assessments, including his 2 examples on screen. And if the learner has struggled with the content, it will pull it out and put it in a daily quiz and drive those messages home to the learner. Very importantly, using the theory of spaced repetition and the algorithm SN2, the system will then, based upon the learner's efforts in the quiz, slowly decrease the frequency of that content in the quizzes to reflect if the learner has answered correctly. If they continue to answer the question wrong, then that content will be very, very prevalent to the learner in order to really drive home those messages until they understand. Excellent. Well, that really covers off our demo and our unpacking of this learning journey. There's obviously a lot to cover there. We spoke about lots of different features on the platform. As always, if you need some more insight there, let us know. So to wrap up today's conversation, we just wanted to point out a few resources that are proving very valuable to our partners. Either if you're in an organization and you need to inform your peers about microlearning and its benefits, or if you're an agency and you're going out there and talking to clients about the benefits. So firstly, we have a range of resources that we can shoot across, whether that be a PowerPoint slide with feature summary, explanations of microlearning, the impact of microlearning, for example. We also have white papers talking about microlearning and its place among a learning ecosystem. We've got webinars like this one, for example. And we've just recently launched some authoring drop-in sessions that are actually led by our instructional designers, who are very much the experts on the tool. They know a lot more than me. But they're able to, actually, they're hosting these sessions multiple times per week. where you can just drop in and ask a question. And I saw one the other day where someone was asking a question about how to rebrand some courseware. And simply, our IDs will just take you through how that works. So feel free to check those out. If you go to edapp.com/webinars, you'll see the option to find a session there, or feel free to shoot us an email. The second thing that I wanted to mention is our Slack authoring community. And this is really quite new. It's super exciting. We've created a community to allow organizations that use our platform from an agency and a freelancer sense to connect with organizations and brands in order to be able to share your talents and help one another launch really exciting programs. So in that community, you'll see a lot of things. So first and foremost, the ability, if you are an organization and you do want instructional design support, you can jump into that community and post a job. And there's lots of consultants and freelancers in there that I'm sure would be willing to help out. We also have an integration partner in there who can help you with integrating a payment gateway, which is actually the topic of next week's webinar, which we're going to be fleshing out that use case in much more detail. And then finally just go in there and discuss best practice on microlearning, whether that's on our platform or just microlearning in general. It is a free-flowing community, and something that I'm sure those of you that are very well versed in L&D will get a lot of value out of. Okay, so as I said, next week's webinar, we would love everyone to join us again. We're going to be talking about the integration of a third-party gateway on your website with EdApp's API to seamlessly allow learners to pay for their courseware and then log into the app and access it. And we're going to be joined by our kind of long-time agency partner, Improvement Sciences, who have deployed an example that we can speak to. So that one, I'm sure those of you that are in the agency world will have asked that question in the past on how to deliver courseware and monetize it. And we have a very seamless solution which we will speak to. So go to edapp.com/webinars and you can hit the link and subscribe for that webinar also. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's session. I'm going to have a quick look at the comments right now and see if there are any questions that we could pull out and speak to. Just bear with me one moment and we'll have a quick look.